Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about some of my most embarrassing dating blunders and mistakes so that you can hopefully learn from them and avoid making them yourself. My name is Stefan Gonek. I'm an EFT practitioner, soulmate attraction mentor, and founder of the Soulmate Attraction Academy from singletossoulmate.me. Now, before I start with my most embarrassing mistake, let's talk a little bit about why we make these kinds of blunders. And basically, these different kinds of dating mistakes and blunders I can be sharing with you are a form of self-sabotage that we're not aware that we're doing, that come from our fears, insecurities, and negative beliefs about love and intimacy and dating. All right, so time for my first one, my worst one. Be kind. This was a really embarrassing mistake. All right, so here I was coming from my insecurities about whether or not I was good enough as myself, right? Because ideally, we just want to be comfortable being ourselves, right? But if we're feeling insecure at all, then we might just try and do something to kind of like build ourselves up, right? So I was thinking, okay, what could I do to make myself immediately stand out as a particularly good guy, right? Compared to all the other men out there. So I was thinking, well, one of the things I hear from my female friends and from women in society in general is that so many men have this sort of fascination, obsession with big breasts, right? And that a lot of women find that a turnoff or frustrating or annoying or whatever. They don't like that. So I was thinking, well, I actually am not one of these guys who's like really into big breasts. So I was thinking, I can talk about that in our first date, right? So I figured that would make me come across as a cool guy, not one of those men who, like into big breasts. So I was on this first date with this woman, and somehow I managed to just bring it into the conversation. We were sitting at a table having dinner, and I just said, there's so many men out there that, that are really into, they're really fascinated with big breasts, and it's like this really big deal. And I know a lot of women are, not into that and, don't like that. And, I just wanted you to know that, I'm one of these guys who's not into big breasts. In fact, I find big breasts a little bit of a turnoff, even, I have to say, which is true. But first of all, if you're a guy, you might think, well, maybe that's kind of a cool idea, No. If you're a woman, you're going, oh, I can't believe he's talking about breasts on his first date. So yes, this is, a ridiculous thing to talk about. It was not making me look good as some cool guy who's, bucking the trend of all these guys are into big breasts. So I was coming across badly, not good. But then just to top it off, at the end of my little spiel about how I, was not into big breasts, in fact, don't even really like them, she looks down at herself and she goes, I have a big chest. And she was wearing this black top, and I had honestly not even looked at her chest and hadn't noticed that she was well endowed in that area. And I'm going like, oh. And so the only thing I can think of to try and save myself is, well, you're very tasteful about it. I was like, just take a wild guess as to whether or not we had a second date. No. All right, so trying to do something to build myself up, to prove that I'm a good guy is, for guys, don't do it. It backfires, it makes you look worse. No matter what I could have come up with, even if it wasn't something as inappropriate as talking about breasts, it would have been obvious that I was trying to build myself up, and that's just not attractive or appealing. It's particularly embarrassing that I happen to pick breasts as my way to do it. All right? So another thing that another dating mistake that I used to make back when I was a single guy is I might, let's say I went to a movie with a date. And at the end of the movie, she would say, so what'd you think of the movie? So she was asking for my opinion, my viewpoint. And I would then get really scared to give her my opinion and viewpoint because what if she didn't like it? What if she disagreed with it? And then she wouldn't like me, right? So again, it's coming from this place of insecurity. And so I wouldn't say it. I'd go, well, what was your opinion or viewpoint? What did you think of the movie? And there might be a lot of different things about that. I'd be afraid to take a stand and give my opinion because what if she didn't like it? So which caused me to really hold myself back a lot and not reveal who I am. So like, what if she didn't like it? So what? right? If she really disliked it and thought negatively of me and didn't want to see me anymore, then so be it. I mean, that means we're not compatible anyway, right? And she may have liked my opinion. She might have thought it was very interesting. Who knows what? Or we could have a disagreement and just enjoy exploring why we have different opinions, right? Again, ideally, we want to be our fully ourselves when we're on a date with somebody. We don't want to hold parts back and hide them or anything like that. Similarly, when one would say, well, what do you want to do now? Or what do you want to do next? Something like that. Again, from this place of kind of trying to get her to like me, trying to be pleasing to her, I'd say, well, what would you like to do? Right? Rather than thinking, yeah, what would I like to do next? And not to say, oh, well, we're going to do this next, not to be, controlling about it, but I could say, well, one option is we could do such and such. Or maybe I can think of two things that I'd like to do next. How about this or that? And then she might go, I'm not sure, like those, how about this other thing, a third thing instead? And we can kind of negotiate back and forth. And if we have a really hard time finding something in common, then again, that tells you that maybe we're not so compatible. But it's about bringing ourselves forward. So that was another mistake that I used to make a lot. Now this last one, I think is a particularly interesting one. It's not mine actually. It was one of my date's mistake that she did with me. But I think it's a really interesting example of how beliefs can cause us to sabotage ourselves. So there's this woman that I met through a dating site. And we exchanged some emails, and then we got to the point where we were having our first phone date. And right, if a phone date goes well, then you usually try and set up an in-person date. So here we are on the phone date, and right away she asked me this really interesting question about myself. And I thought, wow, that's a good question, So I gave it a sincere answer, which took a bit of time to do it. I didn't hog the stage, but I gave her a full answer. And then she immediately followed that with another really interesting question. And it's like, oh, okay, so I answered that question too. Again, I gave it a good answer, and then she tried to ask me a third question. I went, wait. I've been doing a lot of talking here. I'd like to get to know you. So, and she goes, okay. So I asked her a question that I thought was an interesting question, and she gave me this very brief answer, not a long one, and then immediately asked me another meaty question. So I answered it, and then she immediately tried to follow it up with another question. And I said, oh, wait. Again, I've been doing way too much of the talking. I'd like to get to know you. So I asked her another question. She again gave me a short answer and then again followed up with another question. And then this time I went, what? Again, I still want to get to know you more. So I asked her another question, and she gave me a short answer and then followed up right away with another meaty question. So I thought, okay, well, this time I'll answer it. So I answered it. I kept it a little shorter than I had been answering before. Turned it back on her to ask her question, and again she gave me a short answer. The whole conversation went this way. So it was kind of me fighting to get her to talk more about herself and protesting over and over again about how I was doing so much of the talking in this conversation and that I wanted to get to know her better. I kept saying that. I'm doing too much of the talking here. I'd like to get to know you, right? So finally we reached the end of this conversation, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that was kind of weird. It was clearly this very one-sided conversation. I was talking at least 2/3 of the time, if not maybe 3/4 of the time. But maybe she was just nervous, and maybe in person she'd relax more and we'd have a more balanced back and forth conversation. So I thought, she certainly asked me good questions, and it was interesting talking about what we talked about. So I thought, yeah, okay, I'd be willing to meet her in person. So I said to her, hey, it was interesting, it's fun talking to you. Would you like to get together and have an in-person date next? And she went, oh no, you just spent all the time talking about yourself. I'm not interested in going on a date with you. And I was just like, I couldn't help but laughing. When she said that. I mean, I didn't laugh out loud that she heard me, but I'm just like, So here I was, like I said, fighting to get her to talk more. Literally, almost arguing with her, no, I don't want to, I'm talking too much, I'm going to learn more about you. But she must have come into the conversation with this very strong belief that guys only want to talk about themselves. And there are certainly guys like that. I have a lot of female friends. And I've heard from them, I went this day with this guy and he spent the whole time talking about himself. He hardly ever asked me any questions, and it was this very one-sided conversation. And it was really frustrating. I didn't like it. So I'm guessing, I can only guess, but I'm guessing this woman had the same belief, but the belief was so strong that she made it happen that way. In spite of my strongest efforts to have a balanced conversation, she was not willing to talk very much, and then she concluded, oh, this guy again, is another one of these guys. It's just all about them. So this is a way that she was sabotaging herself without realizing it. So these are different examples of how we sabotage ourselves coming from either, fears and insecurities, that maybe, I don't feel like I'm good enough just as myself, so I'm going to try and win the approval or try and get my date to like me, by trying to, be cool or, appealing or hide parts of myself, things like that. Or in this case, with her, bringing this belief in that's controlling what she's doing and her perception of the situation. These all really get in our way. As I keep saying, we want to be just our natural selves. But then the question is, how do we do that? Because it's easy to say, not always easy to do, right? Because you hear that advice all the time. Just be yourself. Just relax and just be yourself and have a good time. And it's like, yeah, I would love to be able to do that. How do I actually do that? Well, the way we learn how to do that is by getting in touch with what is making it hard for us to do that and then addressing that. Okay? So now the question is, okay, so what are these underlying things that's really making it hard for us to be ourselves? And, what do I need to address? Well, rather than have this really long video, I actually have a free mini course called The 3 Secrets to Attracting Amazing Love that goes into this in depth. So what I invite you to do is click on the link below this video in the description and then go sign up for this free mini course, The 3 Secrets to Attracting Amazing Love, and that will give you this really great insights as to where the problems are and what you can do to address them so that you can finally actually do it. Relax, be yourself, have fun, and just see how well you guys connect, which is really what healthy dating is about. So, if you found this video helpful, it would really help me if you'd let me know by clicking on the like button. I also invite you to share your dating mistakes and blunders in the comments below so that we can all learn from each other and support each other. So thank you for being with me, and I'll see you on the next episode of Love Talk Q&A.